Hey everyone, hi. So the Booker Longlist has just been announced, and I don't want to take the tact of being an authority both either on this prize or on this list. Part of my feeling is that the Booker reactions, we're all getting our information from a very similar place, looking up the books on the same websites, we're reading the same information. And so I don't want to take this tact of me presenting the list to you all from this place of me knowing more than you. I don't want to do that. Rather, I just want to explore the list with you. And I thought that we could hang out for me. I think I'll hang out for an hour. What you will probably watch is about a half hour, because I'm sure that I will fall silent and read, and you read like about the book and about the books and all of that. And you don't want to see any of that. So my goal is I'm just trying to come up with some sort of plan that will be both useful for as I spit. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It will be useful for both of us, and it will be informative for both of us. It won't be a waste of time, but it won't be fake on my part. Not that any of this is fake. I just don't want to be somebody who comes to you with her thoughts fully formed, because my thoughts are not fully formed. I want to come to you as a person who is processing the list with you. So if you're new to my channel, then hi, I'm Shelly. And I really love books and reading, and yeah, I guess you got an earful in a very realistic moment with me, with the spittle and everything, like what I'm about. So yeah, if you're enjoying the vibe, maybe subscribe. But without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. I suppose one other thing that you ought to know about me is that I am sitting somewhere truly in the middle, which I think in the middle of excitement about the list. On the one hand, I am excited. I'm like, oh, the Booker came out with a long list. How exciting for a bookish person to see a bookish prize announce their long list. But I do not want to give all of my reading autonomy up to a prize. I just don't. To a book critic, perhaps, but not to a prize. And I also don't want, I'm not on the other end of the spectrum. I'm not cynical about the prize. I'm just sort of looking at it a little bit from afar. Maybe it will influence my reading. And so that's kind of the tact. That's like where I sit. I'm not a Booker enthusiast to the point where I read the entire shortlist or long list or anything like that. I am just I don't know, someone in the middle, someone who is curious. I'm Booker curious. So I thought what we could do is we could actually read together what the Booker has said about their own prize, and we can process that together. So I'm on the Booker prize website, and I'm like, maybe I'll scooch just ever so slightly so we have a little more room over here. And here is what the Booker says about their own long list. In terms of this article, the first full section of it is really all about the rules, who's chairing the event. The judge chair is Roddy Doyle, who is a previous Booker winner. I could not name his book or what it's about, anything. So if you know about Roddy Doyle, please let me know if it's worth it to you. There is also on the judging panel is an actress, Sarah Jessica Parker, a literary critic who is Chris Power, and then two writers, Adebami Adebayo and Kylie Reed. So those are our judges. There is a little recap of the prize money and who qualifies within the submissions. But we're going to kind of scroll past that, dates, important dates, things like that. We're going to scroll past that. The plant is attacking me a little bit. So anyways, please stop. So then we get to the way that they're writing about this list. So a huge overview, or a broad overview, according to them, is this. The Booker Dozen features 5 British authors while also encapsulating a vast range of global experiences. The 13 novels transport readers to a farm in southern Malaysia, a Hungarian housing estate, and a small coastal town in Greece. They shine a light on the lives of Koreans in post-colonial Japan, a homesick Indian in snowy Vermont, and a Kosovar torture survivor living in New York, a shrimp fisherman in the north of England, a mother's search for a child given up for adoption in Venezuela, and even endangered snails in contemporary Ukraine. They reimagine the Great American Road Trip as a slow-burning midlife crisis and take us into the heart of the UK's coldest winter. So then they go into they get into the list a little more specifically. So that was like our broadest overview. I already recognize some titles and some descriptions of what they're pointing towards. So not everything on the list is a surprise. I did do a brief look at the list just to get some initial ideas about it. So, okay, the judges' selection features these books. Authors representing 9 nationalities across 4 continents, with UK authors securing the highest number of nominations. Kieran Desai, who is nominated 19 years after his book won the Booker Prize. I don't know that name either, so tell me about Roddy Doyle and Kieran Desai, I think that's how you say it. Tosh Ah, longlisted for a 3rd time, who could become the first Malaysian winner. I did read about Tosh Ah's book, which we'll get into a little bit later, I believe, in the New York Times, I believe. Okay, there are also past shortlistees, such as Andrew Miller, a book I predicted or was on my wish list, and David Slasley, which I also have talked about in a New York Times article. His book has been popping up quite a bit. There are going to be 2 debut novelists among the 9 authors who appear on this Booker Prize longlist for the first time. Of course, it would be their first time. They're debut novelists. The first novel from an opera librettist, I think that's the pronunciation, and the 12th from a former professional basketball player. A book that first garnered acclaim as a short story, and one that is the first in a proposed quartet. Okay, I can't identify those, so I'll have to read up about that. 3 titles are going to be coming from the independent publisher Faber, and then Fitz Editions, which is mostly known for their international Booker. They get a lot of their international Booker books longlisted and shortlisted. This is the first time that they've been making it to the Booker longlist rather than the international Booker longlist. And, all right, and then novels that are alive with great characters and narrative surprises, which examine the past and poke at our shaky present, according to the judge. So then we get into the long list, and we'll get into that in just a minute. All right, let's just go through the list. The first book is going to be Misinterpretation by Lydia Shoga, I think. So here's what the judges say about this book. The Kosovan torture survivor requests translation assistance at his therapy sessions. Our narrator, a nameless translator, reluctantly agrees. But Alfred's account of his experiences conjures hidden memories that seep into her psyche, forcing her to question her marriage and her place in the world. This is a story of a woman saddled between her Albanian past and her New York present. It explores the way that language is kept in our bodies and how it can reveal truths we aren't ready to hear. Misinterpretation subtly blurs the distinction between help and harm. We found it a propulsive, unsettling, and strangely human. And here's what a critic said. Part of the pleasure of the novel, which is related in a direct, matter-of-fact tone, comes from second-guessing what the occasionally unreliable narrator has withheld or misinterpreted and how it affects others. Alfred misreads her compassion. She misconstrues others' expectations, risking her marriage and mental health. The book is a nuanced exploration of communication failures, blurred boundaries, and an emotional cost of unchecked altruism. I don't know, it doesn't shoot to the top of my list, but an unreliable narrator talking about experiences that maybe one has not read about. I mean, overall, like, it's not that that's not my thing. I like that kind of thing. It's just there's nothing about it that's jumping out at me as like the thing that I want to read. The next book is Sea Scraper by Benjamin Wood. So here's what the judges said. Sea Scraper seems at first to be a beautifully described account of the working day of a young man, Thomas Flett, who works as a shanker in a north of England coastal village, scraping the Irish seashore for scrimps. And it is that. The details of the job and the physicality of the labor are wonderfully captured by Benjamin Wood. But this novel becomes much more than that. It's a book about dreams, an exploration of class and family, a celebration of the power and the glory of music, a challenge to its limits of literary realism, and stunningly a love story. Oh my. Okay, so let's read at least one of the critics. There's 2 blurbs from a critic. So Benjamin Wood is one of the finest British novelists of his generation, but you've probably never heard of him. You are right. I have never heard of him. Wood decided to embrace the weather when he was writing Sea Scraper, working outdoors for the first time and composing the book in longhand. The result is a fiercely atmospheric novel that engages the senses. Okay, I want to read more. I'm actually very curious. I think that the idea of having details of a job that I've never worked and don't know anybody who has worked it, that is pulling me in. It's like giving me something that I don't, like that I didn't get from the previous novel. Sea Scrapers, shimmers, salt-flecked, and rippling. It swells with tense, memorable moments, as when Edgar and Tom venture to the shore at night and meet danger. The long beaches full of hidden traps and shrouded by fog as a metaphor for Tom's complex state of mind. In the end, his music guides him out of the mire. Okay, I'm not going to write this book off. I am curious. That's it's above the first book that we talked about. I'm quite curious. Next, we have Flesh by David Slasley. I didn't, when I first saw this, it was not this cover that's on the Booker website. It was this apple, and I was like, it looks like an AI-generated apple, and I don't understand it. And then somebody in the comments and in emails told me, Shelley, there are 2 profiles of people that make up the core of the apple. And I was like, oh. So forever, David Slasley's Flesh will remind me of my naivety that I put on full display on the internet. Here's what the judges say. David Slasley's 5th novel follows Istvan from his teenage years on a Hungarian housing estate to Borstal, and from soldiering in Iraq to his career as personal security for London's super rich. In many ways, Istvan is stereotypically masculine, physical, impulsive, barely on speaking terms with his own feelings, and for much of the novel, barely speaking. He must rank among the more reticent characters in literature. But somehow, using only the sparest of prose, this hypnotically tense and compelling book becomes an astoundingly moving portrayal of a man's life, which actually, at the time, it did intrigue me. Even when the Times wrote about it, I think that male isolation. My husband has read a lot about this, like about this issue in male life in the 21st century. And so I thought it was interesting that Slasley had written a book that speaks directly to this very modern issue. So here are what the critics said. Such novels are now rare, as male writers seem increasingly frightened to describe and reckon with the potentially destructive aspects of their character. In this complex flesh. In this context, not complex, in this context, Flesh feels especially refreshing, illuminating, and true. More than that, it is a moving work of art with a plot that compels and surprises and devastates. And then another blurber, another person writes this. Once or twice a year, I discover a novelist who is so exciting to read that I want to share their work with everyone I know. The kind of writer who makes me want to write fiction. It's rare to find prose this spare that doesn't feel affected, but Slasley handles surface and depth with skill, as only great novelists can. Flesh is a revelatory novel that will make you look afresh at every Eastern European doorman or bouncer you encounter. Okay, so far this tops the Benjamin Wood book. David Sklasley, oh my gosh, tops the all the books. So top rank is, yeah, you get it, it's Flesh. Okay, then we have Endling by Maria Reva. I talked about this also in my predictions video. It's got to do with snails, and I think it's supposed to be really weird. It's going to be kind of meta. From me to you right now, it's not typically the kind of thing I like to read. So yeah, you'll just have to take whatever I say with that grain of salt. So what the judges said: Endling shouldn't be funny, but it is. Very. Set in Ukraine, just as Putin invades, it features 3 young women on 2 different missions. In one vehicle, structurally wild and playful, Endling is also heartrending and angry. It examines colonialism, old and neo, the role of women, identity, power, and powerlessness, and the very nature of fiction writing. Maria Reva also tells a riveting, unique story that the shock is that this is her first novel. It's a book about a world now and about 3 unforgettable women, Eva, Nastia, and Solomia, traveling together in a mobile lab. The ending, by the way, is a snail. Okay, I think it's about like one of the main characters trying to breed rare snails, which they don't talk about here, and failing. And she is doing scandalous things to get herself to the top. Anyways, this is what some critics have said. Maria Reva's startling and ambitious whirlwind of a debut novel, Endling, involves soon-to-be extinct animal species, the worst European terrestrial conflict since World War II, and spectacularly mismatched participants of the international marriage industry. Another reviewer, says this: upon the initial reading, Maria Reva's remarkable debut, Endling, might be categorized several different ways. A war novel about modern-day Ukraine, a metafictional tale that examines the ethics of writing about conflict and violence, a satirical setup of a mail-order bride industry in Ukraine, a biologist's quest to save the last remaining snails, and of a species amazingly Endling is all these things. Okay. Just by the nature of how experimental this is, it's not like on the top of my list. I'm going to let other people read this first. The Land in Winter by Andrew Miller is a book that has been on my mind because it won the Walter Scott Prize for Historical Fiction, so I've wanted to read it because of its winning, and I think it would be interesting to read. But also, the premise does sound interesting. So here's what the judges said about it. In the depths of Britain's coldest winter, 2 neighboring women force a friendship in the countryside. It's 1962, and they both just become pregnant. Around them, the men are struggling, maimed by father figures, haunted by the past, hampered by the destructiveness of their own desires. As a winter storm wreaks havoc on their lives, these characters become pivotal figures in a community precariously balanced between history and future, between the damage wrought by the war and the freedom for women that lies ahead. In beautifully atmospheric prose, Andrew Miller brings suspense and mystery to this seemingly inconsequential chapter in British history. So we've got 3 little blurbs here. The first being, The Land in Winter is a brilliant novel, but wraps your emotions up tight because Miller steers it expertly towards a desolate, distressing ending. Ooh, a distressing ending. Okay. The next is, Andrew Miller is a master of nuance, expert exploring the various characters of the human heart. In The Land in Winter, Miller turns to the difficulty of loving in an unlovely world. Okay, I already like that. And then the final one is, this is a quiet book about quiet lives, but the delicate attention Miller affords his characters' inner lives makes for incredibly satisfying reading. Well, This is at the top. So the Land in Winter, and then we have the Land in Winter way up here, and then right below that we have David Scalzi's book. So but again, it's also been on my list. Like, I've talked about it before, so it's really no surprise that I want to read it. The next book is brand new to me, like, has just entered my life via the Booker, and it's The Rest of Our Lives, written by Ben Markovitz. Wow, so is this the second Benjamin we have on the list? I don't know, I remember that year that we had all the Pauls. This is the year of the Bens. Well, 2 Bens. We have the dueling Bens here. My brother's name is Ben, and I have a fondness towards that name. Okay, here is what it is about. When Tom Layward's wife cheated on him, he stayed for the children but promised to leave when his youngest turned 18. 12 years later, Ben drops his daughter off at college, but instead of driving back to New York, he heads west. What follows is a remarkably satisfying road trip full of strangers, friends, and self-discovery. It's clear author Ben Markovitz has spent time teaching. This novel speaks to a much-loved professor, one whose classes have a terribly long wait list. It's matter-of-fact, effortlessly warm, and it uses the smallest parts of human behavior to uphold bigger themes like morality, sickness, and love. And then basically it was difficult to put down. I don't know, friendly professor writes a novel. It's not that I'm against it. It just seems like a weird selling point. I don't know why. It's like, just because you're a really nice person doesn't mean that you can write a good novel. So here is what critics had to say. The Rest of Our Lives is another quiet triumph, an elegant, devastating book that lays bare the way time calcifies our failures, how we find ourselves trapped not by circumstance, but by the slow erosion of the will to escape. Markovitz has long been one of our most underappreciated novelists. This is yet more proof that he deserves far greater recognition. So the next little blurb says this: fluently written and effortlessly wise about families and middle age. Stop it. It tells a compelling story that packs a serious emotional punch. And then the final little blurb says, we all fear irrelevance as technology and society outpace us. And as the young outgrow us, yet reading Ben Markovitz's gentle, powerful, and funny novel, we are reminded that family love can ground us and keep us together. Okay. Just sort of like a modicum of interest, similar to Misinterpretation. Like, that sounds fine. All right, next is going to be Audition by Katie Kitamura. I know a lot of people did predict this on their Booker predictions. I can't remember if I talked about it. I'm not really interested in this book. I'm just going to tell you that for sure. This novel begins with an actress meeting a young man in a Manhattan restaurant. A surprisingly unsettling conversation unfolds, but far more radical disturbances are to come. Aside from the extraordinarily honed quality of its sentences, the remarkable thing about Audition is the way it persists in the mind after reading. So it has stick-to-itiveness, according to the judges. Like a knot that feels tantalizingly close to coming free. Denying us the resolution we instinctively crave from stories, Kitamura takes Chekhov's dictum that the job of the writer is to ask questions, not answer them, and runs with it, presenting a puzzle, the solution to which is undoubtedly obscure and might not even exist at all. Many things that I already find issue with is just like that there's no ending, that it's unresolved, that there's a puzzle that you can't quite figure out. No, thank you. No, thank you. So this is one of the this is one of the critics. It says, in her depictions of how an unexpected turn of phrase, awkward silence, and unbidden distraction or shift in body language can change the weather in the room, Kitamura is unparalleled. So this is not a Shelley book. I'm just gonna tell you that for sure. It is not a Shelley book. Okay, all right. We get our first forthcoming novel. I hate when they do this. By the way, cannot stand it. I just wish they would change the eligibility dates, because this is just I just don't like it. Anyways, the forthcoming book is The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny, which is going to be coming out on September 25th of this year. This is by Kieran Desai, and we don't have anything of what the critics said because this has not been, the sort of window of when it would be critically reviewed is not necessarily out yet because it's going to be published in the future. So here's what the judges have said. This novel about Indians in America becomes one about westernized Indians rediscovering their country. On the whole, that sounds like a really interesting premise. And in some ways, a novel about the Indians, not the Indian novel's place in the world. So not only about Indians living in the U.S. and rediscovering their past, but also about sort of metally or in a bigger, more interesting context, the Indians novel in our own world. So it's vast and immersed, and the book unfolds a magical, realist fable within a social novel within a love story. We love the way in which no detail, large or small, seems to escape Desai's attention. Every character in a huge cast feels fully realized, and the writing moves with consummate fluency between fluency, not for me. So consummate fluency between an array of modes: philosophical, comic, earnest, emotional, and uncanny. All right. Well, I don't have a lot to say about it because it's going to be in the future, so it's not like we can't read this novel yet. I'm a little miffed at that, okay? I'm a little miffed at that. Next is Flashlight by Susan Choi. That name seems familiar, but I can't quite place it. But yeah, new to me, another brand new to me novel. So Flashlight is a sprawling novel that weaves stories of international upheavals with those of Louisa, her Korean-Japanese father, Sirk, and Anne, her American mother. Evolving from the uncertainties surrounding Sirk's disappearance, it is a riveting exploration of identity, hidden truths, race, and national belonging. In this ambitious book that deftly crisscrosses continents and decades, Susan Choi balances historical tensions and intimate dramas with remarkable elegance. We admired the shifts and layers of Flashlight's narrative, which ultimately revealed a story that is intricate, surprising, and profound. All right, here's what the critics have said. Choi is one of contemporary literature's great demolition artists. What does that even mean? And her emotional foundations hold. She can build as well as she detonates. I hate this metaphor that B.J. Silcox is using. Choi gives her cast the room they need to live, to be more than vessels for political wrangling, like the best of those early 2000s novels. Early 00s, are 1900s novels? So, what are you talking about, brother? Okay, I don't like this. Flashlight is all kinds of big, capacious, of intent and scope and language and swagger. And I disliked that. Review. Okay. Couldn't you have plucked something better? Okay, let's try and read something better. Okay, the next critic says this. Susan Choi's sixth novel takes a little-known and appalling aspect of Japanese Korean history and fashions it into a rich generational saga that teems with intelligence, curiosity, and, in terms of reading, sheer pleasure. Okay, that was better. Severely. Okay, I'm just gonna move on. I'm not into that. Even though my dad is half Japanese, half American. His mother was from Japan, so you would think that I would be like more interested in that sort of like identity struggle, but for whatever reason, this book is not giving it to me. Again, we're trying not to judge a book by its summary, but we are. I cannot help it. The next book is our Fitz book with that brilliant blue cover, and it's called One Boat by Jonathan Buckley. So here's what the judges said. Following the death of her father, Teresa returns to a small coastal town in Greece, and that she first visited when her mother died nearly a decade before. So we have these two events. From this scenario, tacking between the events of the second trip and the memories of the first, Buckley creates a novel of quiet brilliance and sly humor packed with mystery and indeterminacy. The way in which the book interleaves, is that even a word? Interleaves. Okay, it's fine. Teresa's relationship to her mother, her involvement in an amateur murder investigation, and an account of a love affair raises questions about grief, obsession, personhood, and human complexity we found to be as stimulating as they are complex. There is only one little critic blurb, and it was Jonathan Buckley's strange, sly, and self-assured novel in which both nothing and everything happens is about thinking and overthinking. Okay, it's only 168 pages. All right, well, there's that. I don't know. We don't get a lot. We don't get a lot of Fitz books here in the U.S. I don't see them ever at my library. Maybe I'm not looking hard enough. So it's fine. It's fine. We're just gonna move on. Universality by Natasha Brown. This is a compact yet sweeping satire. Told through a series of shifting perspectives, it reveals the contradictions of a society shaped by entrenched systems of economic, political, and media control. Natasha moves the reader with cool precision from Hannah, a struggling freelancer, through to Lenny, an established columnist, unfurling through both of them an examination of the ways language and rhetoric are bound with power structures. Oh, they quote Wendy Holden. Is it the Wendy Holden? The Wendy Holden, the author of The Princess and the Duchess? I love her. So this is what Wendy Holden says. A proper old-fashioned state of the nation satire is a rare beast these days. This one embraces new targets such as demagogue columnists and eco-warriors alongside more traditional, heartless capitalists. Brown's target is the modern writing market, whether it's earnest left-wing reporting, right-wing bullying pulpits, or the politics of literary festivals. A sharp, clever take on contemporary culture. On the surface, I'm not super interested. I'm not trying to be somebody who's not interested in the booker. But sometimes it takes me a little while to process how I feel. So this is very in real time. And right now I'm just sort of maybe I'm just overwhelmed with all the new information. I'm just overwhelmed. The next book is The South by Tosh Ah. So I'm so sorry ahead of time if I butcher some of these names. Okay, so it's summertime in the 1990s. In rural Malaysia is hot. Teenager Jay and his family leave their home in Kuala Lumpur to work on a farm in the Johor Bahru countryside. There, Jay meets Chuan, who opens Jay up to a friendship, illicit pastimes, and a deeper understanding of his sexuality. To call The South a coming-of-age novel nearly misses its expanse. This is a story about heritage and Asian financial crisis and the relationship between one family and a land. The South is the first installment of a quartet. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so this is the installment that is going to be a quartet, and we are pleased that there is more to come. All right, one of the critics have said this. Ah has moved beyond his previous novels to discover a different kind of writing here, emerging as a Proustian chronicler of momentary bodily and mental experience, writing on a compressed, exquisite scale. So if it's Proustian, it's going to be stream of consciousness. Usually, that's the shorthand. It's Proustian. It means it's going to be stream of consciousness. Okay, perhaps he will follow Proust in using his newly revealed capacity for blending the timeless and historical to reinvent what an epic can be. Okay, I don't know. I like a coming-of-age story. I like, discovering those parts of ourselves that have yet to be discovered. This is not calling to me. Okay, and the last one is going to be Love Forms by Claire Adam. This is the cover that I like the best. Okay, we're just going to be real right now. And this is selling itself to the Shelleys of the world. I'm just telling you that. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying that it was designed with Shelley in mind. With me, Shelley Swearingen, particularly in mind. Here's what the judges have said about this. So Claire Adams returns to Trinidad for her sophomore novel. So it's her second novel. We first meet Dawn, a pregnant 16-year-old, on a clandestine journey across the sea to Venezuela. There, she gives birth and returns home without the baby, just as her parents had prescribed. Now, at 58, Dawn is a divorced mother of 2 adult men, but the loss of the baby girl consumes her every move. The story, heartbreaking in its own right, comes second to its narration. Dawn's voice haunts us still with its beautiful, quiet urgency. Love Forms is a rare and low-pitched achievement. It reads like a hushed conversation overheard in the next room. Okay, I really like the way that they describe that. I am more interested than I thought. Okay, and then let's read what the critic said. With its rich creation of all the elements that make up a life, Love Form achieves a sort of alchemy. Even when there isn't much happening. Accounts on her son's jobs, reflections on her marriage, it all goes to nourish the reader's deepening understanding of Dawn. She feels real. The book has started by tantalizing the reader, ultimately delivers The book that started by tantalizing the reader ultimately delivers satisfaction. Okay, and then the other one, because I'm curious now. Adam is a thoughtful writer, and this is a soulful, unflashy narrative. Love Forms does not have the same propulsive quality as the kidnapped narrative of Golden Child, but it's a reflective novel that sensitively explores love and motherhood. Okay, I don't even know the book that this critic is. I don't know Golden Child, so I don't know what this critic is talking about. So terrible pulled quote from the Booker people. Why? Just why? Okay, the 4 books that are intriguing me most are going to be Sea Scraper by Benjamin Wood, Flesh by David Scalzley, The Land in Winter by Andrew Miller, and Love Forms by Claire Adam. The one book that intrigues me the most is The Land in Winter by Andrew Miller. So let me know what you think. What do you think about this long list? I don't know. I'm open and willing to hear reviews, to change my mind. This is just my initial knee-jerk reaction to a list that has just come out literally less than 2 hours ago. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. I appreciate you immensely. And I hope to see you all in my next one. Bye.